This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Welcome to the Covert Narcissism Podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson. I am not a therapist, and you are not a victim. Welcome back. Today, I want to talk about some of those single things that get said to you that really rock your world. Now, let's be honest here, as we always are. Sometimes it's not a 400-page book or a deep, soul-searching weekend retreat that cracks your heart and your head wide open. Sometimes that's not what it takes for the light bulbs to go off and for your eyes to just become all of a sudden wide open. Sometimes it's just one single sentence, a phrase that is so true, so sharp, so clarifying that you feel like someone's just handed you the missing puzzle piece to your entire life. And let's be real, some of these one-liners, they deserve more than just a moment in a therapy session. They deserve to be worn on t-shirts and hoodies, to be plastered on, coffee mugs, maybe even embroidered on throw pillows. So today, I'm sharing 10 things my therapist said that deserve to be on t-shirts. I'm going to include in this some stories and real-life moments behind them as well. So t-shirt number 1, I can see it now. You're not crazy. You're just traumatized. I'll never forget my first few therapy sessions and all of this. I was not sitting there, demanding justice or sitting there pointing fingers and saying, he did this and he did that. No, I started basically by apologizing for, I'm the one that's wrong here. I'm the one that's doing things. It sounded something like this. I know I overreact a lot. I mean, sometimes I get upset over nothing, and I guess I'm just really sensitive. And honestly, it's probably me. I'm probably the problem. I'm the one causing all of this. I always seem to be the common denominator. Like, maybe if I just communicated better and wasn't so emotional all the time, then things wouldn't get so bad. I don't know. Maybe I just expect too much. And so, can you help me? And I said all of that like back to back in a single breathless ramble, trying to get ahead of whatever judgment this, therapist was going to throw at me. I just knew that's what was coming, bracing for that moment when they would confirm what I already secretly feared was that I was the problem, that I was really broken, that I needed help, that I needed to chill out or try harder or try less hard. Instead, my therapist just tilted his head, looked me straight in the eyes, and said so calmly, "You're not crazy. You're just traumatized." And for a second, I didn't know whether to burst out laughing or to burst into tears. Because deep down inside of me, some part of me knew that this was true. This registered with a part of me that I didn't even know existed. You see, I wasn't born doubting my own feelings. I wasn't born apologizing for my very existence. No, I had been trained and conditioned. By what? By years of gaslighting, silent treatments, blame shifting, guilt manipulation, and emotional starvation, all dressed up and packaged as love. Now, how do you know if you can relate to this? How do you know if this t-shirt's for you? If you've ever walked into a room and immediately apologized without even knowing why, or if you've ever apologized 3 times before finishing one sentence, if you've ever questioned yourself after every minor disagreement, and I don't mean just question, but really ripped yourself a good one after every little minor problem, if you've ever sat in your car after a conversation replaying every single word you said, terrified that you sounded crazy or reactive. If you've ever second guessed your feelings, memories, sanity, because someone else told you that you were the problem, then this t shirt's for you. You're not alone here. You're not crazy. You were surviving. You were adapting to an environment where your reality was under constant attack. Healing starts the moment that you realize that you're crazy was actually your body screaming for help in a world that didn't make sense, in a world that wasn't safe, in a world where gaslighting kept you silenced. You're not crazy. You're just traumatized. T-shirt number 2. It's not your job to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Now, I love this t-shirt because I definitely am one of those that will set myself on fire so that everybody else can be comfortable. In another therapy session, another monologue where I'm explaining myself almost like proudly, wearing it like a badge of honor as how much I sacrifice in order to keep the peace. Okay, and keeping the peace with a covert narcissist, we already know, is more than a full time job. So here I am talking to the therapist, and I say, yeah, I didn't say anything about how hurt I was. No, I didn't speak up. It would have just caused another fight. I didn't bring up the way that he shut me out last week because honestly, it's just not worth the drama. I know I can be selfish sometimes, so I'm trying to be more understanding. I know he's stressed, and I don't want to add to it. So I can just let it go. I can just swallow everything and I can just be okay. Translation, I was in full survival mode, shrinking, silencing, contorting myself into something unrecognizable and calling it love. My therapist looked at me with so much compassion and simply said, "Hey, it's not your job to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm." That one statement rocked my world. Now, how do you know if you can relate to this, if you can wear this t shirt? Have you ever held in your feelings for weeks because you know that one honest conversation will lead to 2 hours of sulking and the silent treatment? You're listening to the Covert Narcissism podcast, so yes, you do know this feeling. You have done this. Have you ever justified staying silent about a betrayal or a hurt because it would just make things worse? Yeah, that's not love. That's self-abandonment disguised as patience. You see, love doesn't require the death of your voice. If you have to incinerate your needs just to keep someone else comfortable, you're not in a relationship here. You're in a hostage situation with a smile pasted on top. T-shirt number 3. I like this one. Feeling guilty does not mean you're doing something wrong. Now, that one hits a little deep, and that's one that I am going to explore even more on future podcast episodes. You see, I sat across from my therapist, after setting what I thought was a reasonable boundary. And I'm telling the story about a reasonable boundary that I had set, and I'm spiraling. I'm saying things like, I don't know, maybe it was too harsh of me to ask for space. He's going through a lot and he does need, me to be there for him. He needs care and maybe I should have just let it go. I hate feeling like I'm abandoning him when he needs me. I just feel so guilty. Maybe I'm being selfish. And the guilt was crushing. If you've lived in this relationship with a covert narcissist, you know that guilt. It's crushing. Not because I did anything wrong, but because of years of manipulation that had trained me to associate self-care with selfishness. There is a difference here between self-care and selfishness. But in years of manipulation, we get trained that the two are the same. Self-care is selfish. My therapist paused, leaned in slightly, and said to me, "Feeling guilty does not mean that you're doing something wrong." So, how do you know if this t shirt's for you? Have you ever told someone no and then spent 3 sleepless nights wondering if you're a terrible person? Have you ever declined a last minute favor request? Somebody asking a favor of you and you turned them down, and then you fought this urge, and I mean, it's a strong urge to immediately backpedal and say yes? This is what it feels like when you are equating self care with selfishness. When you have been taught that feeling bad or feeling guilty means that you are doing something wrong. These guilty feelings have been laid on you. Guilt is not your compass. It's a smoke alarm, okay? That's fine, but it's been wired wrong by trauma. It's been wired wrong by manipulation and blame shifting. Listen to your values, not the noise of the smoke alarm. How about t-shirt number 4? I've talked about this on my podcast before. You can love someone and still walk away. When I finally admitted that I was thinking about leaving, at least admitted it to myself, I couldn't even say it without immediately minimizing myself. I couldn't do it. It sounded like, he's not all bad. There's a lot of good memories too. And then I would start talking about all the good memories, the times that, we did this well together, we did that well together. And I know he's hurting underneath it all. I know that. And I know he had a rough childhood and I feel bad for him. And I do love him. Now, I'm not perfect either. Just sometimes maybe I wonder if I'm giving up too soon. Maybe real love is supposed to be this hard and this painful. I was trying to find a loophole in reality. See, the reality was this marriage was broken. It was very broken. But I was looking for this loophole. I was trying to justify staying in pain and calling it love. But it was because I still cared. My therapist said it softly to me, but it hit like an earthquake. You can love someone and still walk away. Now, how do you know if this t-shirt's for you? Have you ever stayed in a relationship long past its expiration date because you still love the idea of the person that they were pretending to be? Again, you're listening to the Covert Narcissism podcast, so I already know the answer to this. But if you've stayed in this relationship long past its expiration date because you're still in love with who you think they are, then this t-shirt's for you. Have you ever clung to the good memories? Like, life rafts while the ship is sinking? These are the breadcrumbs that we hold on to. Your love for them does not erase the dysfunction, does not erase the damage. It doesn't heal someone who refuses to heal themselves. Leaving does not mean that you stopped loving them. It means you finally started loving yourself enough to. T-shirt number 5. The apology that you're waiting for probably isn't coming. Heal anyways. Now, there was a time when I genuinely believed that if I just found the right words, and you probably know where I'm going with this, if I just found the right way to say it, the right, combination of words, the right book to give them, the right video to watch, the right, stand on my head and spin in a circle, if I could just find the right way to deliver this message, if I just proved my pain perfectly enough, then he would finally see it. Finally, he would get it. Finally, he would say, I am so sorry. I understand now. And finally, we would have that genuine reconciliation. And I truly believed that I just had to find the right words. I explained it to my therapist somewhere along these lines and said, I think if I just stay calm enough and explain how much it hurt without attacking so that he doesn't get defensive, that he'll realize that it wasn't okay and that it's safe to talk about. Like he'll have that aha moment and everything will just click. Maybe I'm just not explaining it the right way. Can you help me find the right words? Maybe I need to say it differently. What would that sound like? Maybe I just need to be more patient. You see, I was hanging my healing onto his ownership of this, his closure here, his reconciliation, his growth, a moment that was never going to come. And my therapist very gently said to me, hey, the apology you're waiting for probably isn't coming. Heal anyways. Wow. Now that was eye-opening. How do you know if this t-shirt is for you? Have you ever mentally rehearsed a speech that you're probably never going to get to give, where you finally get through to them, where you finally find those magic words and they finally fall to their knees in genuine regret and empathy? Have you ever replayed conversations in your head 100 times, 1,000 times, imagining the perfect reconciliation, the perfect closure? That fantasy isn't real. That fantasy is not actually going to give you the closure. It's a fantasy, it's an imagination, it's still searching for those magic right words. That's not going to give you closure, and you're never going to get it with a covert narcissist. What you're doing is avoiding the grief of the situation. You see, real closure doesn't come from their apology, it comes from your decision to stop needing it. The apology you're waiting for probably isn't coming. Heal anyways. Now, before we move on to part 2, I just want to say this. If even one of these truths has landed in your heart today, stop right here and sit with it. Breathe it in and let yourself feel it. You don't have to fix everything right now. In fact, you can't. You don't have to know exactly what's coming next. In fact, you don't. You just have to let yourself sit with your feelings. Let yourself feel the shift that is happening to you, the tiny crack that is forming in the old stories that you were told, and the small but powerful voice inside of you saying, maybe it wasn't all my fault. Maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe I was just surviving. That voice is healing, and it's only going to get louder from here. So listen to these lines. You're not crazy. You're just traumatized. It's not your job to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Feeling guilty does not mean you're doing something wrong. You can love someone and still walk away. And the apology that you're waiting for probably isn't coming. Heal anyways. Now, this is part 1, and we will continue with part 2 in the next episode with numbers 6 through 10 of, things my therapist said that belong on a t-shirt. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. You have been listening to the Covert Narcissism Podcast, where we break apart the insidious nature of these incredibly destructive and frustrating to the ends of the earth individuals. If you are struggling with the isolation, overwhelming self-doubt, and obsessive ruminating, you are not alone. I offer live, personalized coaching that is specific for you. This coaching can be individual or group sessions, or a combination of the two. You can find all the information at covertnarcissism.com. Reach out anytime. My email address is Renee, RENEE, at covertnarcissism.com. And remember, I am not a therapist and you are not a victim, but I am a coach and you are a survivor. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a health care provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and information provided.